note that the following program is a recording.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're listening to Radio Al Ansar, coming to you live from the new studio in Durban. I'm your host Ismail Kamda, getting ready for Living Islam. Before we begin, a quick apology. Our previous show, which was supposed to air at 8:30 p.m., the workshop with Clint LeBrain, was unable to air today due to technical issues. We apologize for that, and Clint will be back next week, Tuesday, same time at 8:30 p.m. right here on Radio Al Ansar. We apologize for any inconvenience caused to all the fans of the workshop. Now, this is Living Islam. I'm your host Ismail Kamda. We're going through the hadiths that can assist us in personal development, and the hadith that we began discussing last week is the hadith about time management. Just a recap for those who missed last week's show, we were speaking about hadith number 8 from my book 10 Self-Help Tips from 10 Authentic Hadiths, and I said this ebook is available as a free download from my website islamicselfhelp.com. You can download for free and follow along. The hadith which we began discussing last week is hadith number 8 in this book, which goes as follows: that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated, there are two blessings for which people lose: health and free time for doing good deeds. We said that this hadith focuses on two forms of risk, two forms of sustenance, which many people take for granted: our health and our free time. Both of these are necessary resources for doing good deeds. It is very difficult to do good deeds if you do not have good health. It is equally difficult to do good deeds if you do not have any free time. Yet these are the two things that most people take for granted. And many people don't appreciate their health or free time until it is too late. So the best way to utilize your health and your free time is to use it in doing things which are beneficial. And we spoke quite a bit of details last week about the health perspective, the importance of health in Islam, and how to manage your health. We mentioned a few other hadiths related to the topic. Just to recap those hadiths, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated, take benefit of 5 before 5. Your youth before old age, your health before sickness, your wealth before poverty, your free time before you are too busy, and your life before your death. Very powerful hadith in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam describes to us 4 types of rizq, 4 types of sustenance which we have in this world, which we need to take advantage of and use for good. That is our youth, our health, our wealth, our free time, and life in general. Now, continuing this week on what we began discussing, we were speaking in the final segment of last week's episode about the importance of prioritizing your time. We said that in life there are things which are important, but very often the things which are important, they tend to get neglected because we are too focused on that which is directly in front of us. We focused on answering the phone, we are focused on sending that SMS, we focused on checking that Facebook notification, on answering the WhatsApp message, and we end up not focusing on that which is important. So, continuing on from there, the next question that comes to the mind of the listener is, how do I know what should be my priorities in life? And to answer this question, I'm going to discuss the chapter in my book, the Getting the Barakah, an Islamic Guide to Time Management. This book is available at the Al Ansar bookstore for purchase. It's also available as a purchase download from my website islamicselfhelp.com. And the 3rd chapter of this book is re-evaluating your priorities. And in this chapter I discussed what should be the priorities of the believer. And I have divided priorities into 5 categories. And we will try to cover all 5 categories in today's episode. So we're going to speak about what should be your religious priorities, your career priorities, your family priorities, your social priorities, and finally your personal priorities. So we're going to speak about 5 things: religion, career, family, society, and your personal life. In each of these 5 compartments of your life, what should you prioritize? That is the question that we're going to look at in this week's episode as we continue our discussion on time management in Islam. Now we're going to speak about your religious priorities first. Why first? Because this is to the believer the most important part of our life. As Muslims who are living Islam, that which Allah has made a priority for us, those are things which we should always treat as important. No matter what else is going on in our life, these things should be a priority. And in my book I list 4 religious priorities that every Muslim should focus on every day. The first and the most important, right, this is something which no Muslim should ever miss on any day of their life. Nothing is more important than this: the 5 daily salah. The 5 daily salah is crucial. It is the second pillar of Islam. It is our connection with our Creator. We learn discipline and concentration through praying the 5 daily salah. It is the single most important act of worship in the life of the believer. So, the 5 daily salah should be a priority. Now, if you remember last week when we spoke about urgent versus important, the salah will be categorized as things which are both urgent and important. And this past Saturday I was teaching a time management workshop for the youth, and they actually brought this up when I was asking them for examples of things which are both urgent and important. Some of the youngsters said, Salah, it is urgent because you have to pray it right now in its time, otherwise it will become qada. And it is important because it is the second pillar of Islam. Therefore, as a believer, nothing should come before salah. If it is salah time, everything else should be put aside and one should pray the salah. This is a priority in the life of any Muslim. Anyone who believes in Allah and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not prioritize work over salah, would not prioritize games over salah, would not prioritize television over salah. The salah should be it must be in the life of every believer your number 1 priority. Now, the other religious priorities which I mentioned are things which many people neglect, starting with number 2, reciting Quran on a daily basis. Why? It's not obligatory. True, it's not obligatory to recite Quran on a daily basis, but it is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his Sahaba. They would recite Quran every day, and they would look at it as something wrong if somebody was not doing so, because the Quran is your daily connection to Allah. It is Allah speaking to you. It is Kalamullah. Reciting Quran reminds us of our priorities and responsibilities in life. It increases our faith, it relaxes our hearts and minds, and it brings attention to the blessings that Allah has given us. Now, this can only occur when you are reciting with understanding. So I would say that on a daily basis, you should treat it as important to recite Quran with understanding, even if it is just for 5 or 10 minutes a day. Even if it means just after Fajr or Zuhr or Isha, you take out the Quran, you recite a few verses, you look at the translation, and you reflect on the meaning in your life. This is important. It's important for your spiritual development. It's important for keeping hope in the mercy of Allah. It is important for staying on the straight path, and it is important for finding guidance in times of darkness. So reciting Quran on a daily basis should be a priority in the life of every believer. The third priority, when we talk about religious priorities for every Muslim, the third priority that we want to mention is studying Islam. Now you might say, but I know how to pray, I know how to fast, that's all that's needed of me. And in reality, no, it's not. Because in life, there are so many things that we do wrong that we don't even realize is wrong. There is so much haram that goes on in our lives, and we make the excuse that we are ignorant. But if that ignorance was brought upon yourself by yourself without any excuses, then you are sinful for it. You cannot keep yourself ignorant. You need to learn the deen, at least that which applies to your life. You need to know about everything in your life which is halal and which is haram. Your business, your profession, your occupation. You need to understand halal and haram related to that. Your personal life, you need to understand halal and haram related to that. And for your own growth as a believer, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to live a more fulfilling life, you need to be constantly increasing your knowledge of Islam. So how can you do this? Well, you could enroll in any classes or courses that exist in your community. So go to the local masjid, the local Islamic center, the local community center, see what Islamic classes are occurring there. Perhaps there's a weekly tafsir class, perhaps there's a weekly Arabic class, a weekly fiqh class, whatever it is. If it is taught and it's authentic, and the teacher is teaching it properly, and it's something that's going to benefit you, make time for it. Now you may say, I don't have time. I am telling you to make time. Why? Because this is a priority. The whole idea of learning priorities is to learn what we should make time for. And really, anybody can say, I don't have time. But if something is important, you will make time for it. So seek out sources of learning. If you cannot find courses in your community, go online. There are many online institutes that teach Islam where you can study anywhere in the world. Get yourself a good teacher and a good syllabus and learn the deen slowly, one verse at a time, one hadith at a time. Grow in your knowledge and you will grow closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with it. The final religious priority that a believer needs to focus on every day is actually something that we will discuss in the other categories, and that is your responsibilities towards Allah's creation. Praying 5 times a day and reciting Quran is part of your connection with Allah. But also it is a priority that we maintain our obligations towards the creation of Allah. And this is why I have given as 2 separate sections that we will discuss our family priorities and our social responsibilities. So this is our priorities when it comes to the deen. As Muslims, nothing is more important than praying 5 times a day. So if you want to talk about effective time management, that begins by establishing the 5 daily prayer on time. Because if you're not going to do that, but we're going to be good in our time management with every other aspect of our life, what's that saying about us? What's that saying about Salah? What's that saying about how important we treat Allah and Salah? What does it say about us? It shows that everything else is more important to us than Allah. And how will we answer for that on the last day? So this is something we all need to think about. So for the first segment of today's program, we spoke about our religious priorities, that we need to pray 5 times a day, we need to recite Quran and study the deen and fulfill our obligations towards Allah's creation, that's our family and society. We need to be doing these things every day. These are important. These are things we need to make time for. These are things that should be priorities in our life. We're going to take our first break now. When we return, we will continue talking about our priorities, but in the second segment, we will look at what should be our priorities when it comes to our work and career. So don't go away. We'll be right back after this break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're listening to Radio Al Ansar. This is Living Islam and I am your host Ismail Kamda, coming to you live from the New Durban studios. And we are talking this week about time management from an Islamic perspective. What should be your priorities in life? What should be your main focus? What is important in your life? And we began by looking at the most important aspect of our life, our spirituality, our religion. We spoke about the importance of praying 5 times a day, reciting Quran and studying the deen. As promised in this second segment, we'll move on to look at a different aspect of our lives from a time management perspective, and that is your work life. So whatever job you are involved, whatever occupation you have, the 3 points that I have to make about time management when it comes to work can apply to you no matter what profession you have. And I'm going to speak about 3 things here. The first is the importance of focusing on our short-term tasks. The second is the importance of making time for our long-term tasks. And the third is the importance of making time for personal and professional development. So we're going to discuss each of these 3 in the matter of in the context of time management, that we must make time during our work hours for everything that's important. Now, when it comes to your work in general, you will find that there's 2 types of important things when it comes to work. There are those things which are both urgent and important. Those are things that you have to do today and you have to get it done, and you have to and you're not allowed to delay it for tomorrow or for the next day. It has to be done in a specific amount of time. So this is something that is urgent and important. We call these the short-term tasks. The others are things which you've been given time for. Right? Your boss wants a project done within 1 month. They want a report already within 2 weeks. These kind of things we call the long-term tasks. Now, this is also important, but many people, they fail to do these. So what you need to do at whatever work you are doing, you need to look at it and divide it into two things: the short term and the long term. As far as the short term are concerned, things which need to get done today on the spot, you need to find ways to get it done using as little time as possible, while still maintaining a high standard, while still doing a high quality job. So this means that whatever you do, right, whatever short-term task you have to do, find the most efficient way to do it. And really, this is where many people waste time, that they will take 15 minutes to reply to an email that would take actually 2 minutes to reply to, or they would spend half an hour on the phone with a customer whom 5 minutes would have sufficed to solve the problem, or they may take a bit too much time writing out something which should take half that time. So you need to be efficient. You need to take a look and you say, okay, these are all the urgent tasks when it comes to work, and they are taking up a lot of my time. How can I maintain high quality and still get it done faster? And I guarantee you there are ways to do it, because very often we just haven't thought about it. Very often we have just going through life and just doing things without thinking of better ways to do it, just going with the flow. So when it comes to your short-term tasks at work, whether it's a phone call you need to answer, whether it's an email you need to reply to, whether it's something you need to get sold in the next half an hour or next 1 hour, these kind of things, you need to find ways to do it efficiently. And there are many ways to be efficient at your job. So for example, if your work involves using a computer, then I would highly recommend that you study the shortcut keys on your computer. The shortcut keys. Many people are not even aware that these keys exist, and so they may take a long time to do something that can be done in a much faster time. For example, many people, when they're writing out a document on Microsoft Word, if they make a mistake, they go to the top menu, they scroll through the top menu, they look for the undo button and they click it. Now, in reality, if you made a mistake while typing, all you have to do is hold down the control button and press Z, and it will undo your mistake. Literally, what would have taken you 45 seconds before will take you 2 seconds once you've learned the shortcut key. Now, do you know how many minutes in a day you save by just learning one shortcut key? Likewise, your keyboard has shortcut keys for copying, pasting, undoing, cutting, and making things bold, and many other things. You just need to learn it, and you will find yourself working much faster. So this is the first thing. If you want to get your job done faster, you need to figure out, how can I do this faster without decreasing the quality? So find the shortcuts which do not decrease quality. Likewise, if you are driving, part of your work is driving, and you normally take a certain route to work, figure out a shorter route. There may be a much shorter route to get to your destination that you just never thought about. So you see, if you do these kind of things, you will find that these short-term tasks, which are generally taking up a lot of your time, you can actually get them out of the way very, very quickly. And then you will have time to deal with what's really important, the long-term tasks. Just 2 more things you can do when it comes to the short-term tasks to make sure that they are done as little bit time as possible, is that if you are in the position to delegate it to others and they can also do a decent job of it, then go ahead and delegate it. And for me, this is something which has really helped me in life in so many ways. There are so many aspects to my work which I've delegated to others, and people ask me, how do you manage to do so many things every day? And the reality is, I'm not doing it alone. I've given different jobs to different people, delegated things to volunteers, to family members, to people that I'm paying, and in that way I'm able to get more done in a day than others due to the power of delegation. Now, of course, when it comes to delegation, you can't just give a task to anybody. It needs to be given to someone who is competent at whatever it is that you want them to do, because you don't want them to do a shoddy job. You want them to do a good job, right? So I would generally delegate in one of two situations. If somebody else can do just as good a job as me and I need to use my time for something else, then I would delegate it. More importantly, if somebody else can do a better job than me, and it requires humility to figure out when somebody can do a better job than you, but if somebody can do a better job than you at something, you should delegate it to them, even if it means you need to pay them for it. So for example, I'm not good at graphics designing, so I don't do my own graphics designing. I hire other people to do that for me. Why? Because they're better than me at it. So instead of me struggling and taking a few hours to come up with something that doesn't look nice, why not just pay somebody else to do a better job, right? So this is something else that can help you to get through your day. Find things that can be delegated to others and delegated to the appropriate people. Now in the modern world, we have something even more interesting than delegation when it comes to time management, and that is automation. This is such a powerful thing of the modern world that so many people just aren't clued up on. The computers that we have today are capable of doing amazing things. And when you go and you study the amount of things that can be automated, that can be done automatically, it will really blow your mind at the level of a task that you can just hand over to your computer, and basically the computer takes over and does that work for you. It's amazing. And even in my work life, there are so many aspects of my job and my business which are completely automated. In fact, I would say my entire business for the most part is automated. I have a website and people purchase my ebooks from the website. They pay through PayPal or through their credit card, and as soon as it's paid, the book is immediately emailed to them and they are added to my subscription list, and then from there a series of emails are sent to them over the next few weeks, and I don't do a single thing. All of these things that I just mentioned are done by the computer. It's all automated. Do you realize in time management just how powerful automation can be? And in my workplace, this is basically a saying that my boss always says. He says, if it can be automated, why are you doing it? Get the IT team to figure out a way to automate it and hand it over to the computer. And this has been something that we've been using at our workplace for the past 6 years. Many tasks that I've had to work on 6 years ago, the computer does for us now, because of this motto that if it can be automated, figure out how to do it and get the computer to do it for you. So this is one way to make your life easier, right? Or rather, these are two ways to make your life easier. The first is to delegate tasks to those people who are more qualified to do it than you, or who can at least do as good a job as you, so you free up time to do other tasks in your life. And the second thing is that if it's something the computer can do, if it's something that can be automated, why do we have people doing it? Why do you do it yourself when the computer can do it for you? So in your work life, figure out things that you can actually program the computer to do for you, and just let the computer take over, and you will find yourself with so much time to do other things because you now have an automated system completely running. And alhamdulillah, this has helped me at both my work and my business and even my personal life. And so these are things you need to look into if you want to become efficient at time management. So those are the short-term tasks when it comes to work. Now, more importantly at work, many people tend to neglect their long-term tasks, things which have deadlines which are 2 months away or 1 month away. People tend to procrastinate until it's too late to do a good job. They either end up missing the deadline or doing shoddy work. Now, really, this is where time management really comes in. And if you are able to manage your time when it comes to these long-term tasks, you will greatly reduce your stress, reduce your anxiety, you will produce better results, and you will get things done ahead of schedule. So what can be done when it comes to time management? What can be done about your long-term tasks? Let me just give you some examples. If your boss has given you a deadline 2 months from now to write a report or to produce a certain project or to make a certain product, and you have 2 months to do it. Now, the procrastinators, they would leave it until there's a week or a day left before the deadline, and they will do a rush job. Now you, as someone who is serious about time management, you're not going to do that. You are going to treat it as important from today. If the deadline is 30th of May, it's important to you from the 1st of March. And you're going to figure out a way where you just have to do a little bit of work every day, and it will be done with a very high quality long before the deadline. How? Well, think about it. If you procrastinate, you end up sitting one night and doing it, and it takes you about 5 hours, right? What if you put in 15 minutes every day starting today? Those 5 hours would be done within a few weeks, and you most likely would complete the project a month ahead of time with a much better quality result. And of course, when it comes to work, if someone is doing that, if someone is producing better results, if somebody is producing their work on time or faster, then that means that you're going to go up, inshallah, and you're going to get promotions, or you're going to get a better job, or you're going to have better reputation. All of this is good for you in the workplace, alhamdulillah. So this is things to think about, that when it comes to your long-term tasks, the best way to manage your time is to chunk it, to break it down into smaller pieces, and to focus on one piece every day. For example, a friend of mine wanted me to edit one of his books. Now, I have a really busy schedule, but for the sake of our friendship, I made time to edit his book, which is 250 pages. How do I make time to edit a 250-page book? Easy. I just take out time every day to edit 10 pages. And within 25 days, his book is edited and ready. You see, this is the power of chunking something, of breaking it down into manageable pieces, that you can do things that you never thought you could do before. For example, some people take a look at reading a book, they say, oh, this book is 800 pages, I'll never be able to read it. Well, hang on, what about if you just read 10 pages a day? You'll be done in 80 days. If you read 20 pages a day, the book will be finished in 40 days. If you read 40 pages a day, you'll finish this book in under a month. So it's not impossible. It's very much possible. You just need to break it down into manageable pieces. And this is really what time management is all about, finding ways to get things done most effectively. So we need to take our second break now, and when we return, we'll continue speaking about work priorities, and then we'll move on to talk about family priorities as well, as it is mentioned in my book, Getting the Barakah, an Islamic Guide to Time Management, available as a book in the Al-Ansar bookstore, as well as online from my website, IslamicSelfHelp.com. So don't go away. We'll be right back after this break with part 3 on this episode about priorities.
Radio Al-Ansar.
Are you a crazy blog follower? Or maybe a pet lover? Or just a lost teen trying to find yourself? Then join us on the chat room as we chat about blogs, pets, stress, crazy facts, and young budding inspiration. So tune in every Sunday 2 to 4 p.m. on the chat room with me, Sumeriaz Jamal, only on Radio Al-Ansar.
Need an Iman booster? MuslimCentralAudio.com has over 60 inspiring speakers and 50 reciters from around the world. That's over 6,000 lectures and 50 complete Quran recitations with new content uploaded regularly. Easily subscribed via emails, iTunes, podcasts, or over 100 Apple and Android apps. Our podcasts are accessible from most tablets and smartphones. Over 500,000 downloads per month. Be inspired and give your Iman the boost it needs, inshallah. Visit www.MuslimCentralAudio.com. That's MuslimCentralAudio.com.
Allah, 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 Allah. تزكية القلوب مع الأنصار. تزكية القلوب برنامج يومي يعدها ويقدمها لكم الأخ Hussein Wadi من إذاعة الأنصار. Purification of our hearts, a daily program from Monday to Friday, prepared and presented by Brother Hussein Wadi, only on Radio Al-Ansar. Al-Ansar International.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're listening to Living Islam on Radio Al-Ansar. I'm your host Ismail Kamdar, coming to you live from our new studios in Durban. And we are talking about time management from an Islamic perspective, taken from my book Getting the Barakah, an Islamic Guide to Time Management, available at the Al-Ansar bookstore, as well as for download from my website IslamicSelfHelp.com. And we are talking before the break about career priorities, that in your workplace, we spoke about how to get your short-term tasks done in the fastest way possible, and then we're talking about long-term tasks and how to make them manageable. The third thing to keep in mind when it comes to work, and this is something that a lot of people neglect, except those who rarely get ahead in the workplace, and that is personal and professional development. that you need to focus every day on becoming a better professional, for becoming an expert in your field. And this is not going to come from you just doing your work. It's not going to come from you just doing adequate work. It means that you need to go above and beyond. It means that you need to be attending seminars. You need to be reading books. You need to be reading articles. You need to be checking out the latest research. You need to be talking and meeting with and getting acquainted with the leaders in your field. It means that you need to take mentors and spend time learning from their experience. You see, in life, when you look at different businesses and professions, you get two types of people. You get those who just coast by, they just do the basics and they carry on, and they wonder why they're not getting a promotion, why they're not getting bigger opportunities. On the other hand, you have those people who treat their personal growth as important. So every day they take out time to read, they take out time to research, they take out time to study. So they are growing. So if you've got two graduates from the same university, but one has never opened a book since graduating, but the other one is studying daily and he's learning daily, who do you think is going to be the more valuable employee within 3 or 4 years? So you, as the person listening to this, whatever field of profession you are in, my advice to you, if you want to get ahead in your field, is to never stop learning. Understand that in almost any field of worldly knowledge, whatever you've learned today becomes outdated within 5 years. So you need to be constantly learning and constantly researching to be up to date with the latest knowledge and the latest trends and the latest tactics or tips in your field. So this is what I wanted to speak about when it comes to prioritizing in your work, that at work you need to make time for your short-term tasks, time for your long-term tasks, and even time for professional development. If you can make time for these three things every day, you will get ahead in the workplace, inshallah. Allah will help you to reach higher levels. So we spoke in the first part about our religious priorities, praying 5 times a day, reciting Quran, and studying Islam. In the second segment, we spoke about our career priorities, which is short-term tasks, long-term tasks, and personal or professional development. The third area of our lives where we need to prioritize and make time for every single day is our family. And particularly 4 types of family members you should be making time for: your spouse, your kids, your parents, and your siblings. These are the most important people in your life. And very often we get so caught up with work and with our personal lives that the people who we end up neglecting first and foremost are those who are closest to us. So really, starting off with your spouse, your husband or wife, no matter how busy or stressful your life is, try to make time for them every day. Try to make time for them every day. I mean, from a time management perspective, one of the things which I always recommend to couples to help them to make time for themselves every day is to have a bedtime for your children. If your children are young enough for you to still implement a bedtime, have a bedtime for your kids. Tell them they need to be in bed by 8. Why? Well, if your kids have a bedtime, then every day after 8, you and your spouse have personal time just for the two of y'all without any kids to disturb y'all. So try to implement a bedtime from as young as possible. Once the child is able to sleep throughout the night, whether it's 6 months, 1 year, whatever it is, get the child accustomed to a bedtime from that age, and you will find that you will have time for your spouse. Now, what happens with many families is that once kids come into play, the parents let the kids sleep whatever time they want, and many of the kids only sleep 10 or 11 o'clock, and the parents tend to fall asleep at the same time or before them. And then, as the years go by like that, the husband and wife begin to drift apart, because they are no longer spending quality time together. They are mother and father 24/7, and they don't get time to be husband and wife. And as a result, the marriage starts to become constrained. So the easiest way to avoid this is to have a bedtime for your kids. If your kids have a bedtime, every day after that time, you and your spouse have time for each other. Just time for each other to be husband and wife and not have to worry about being parents for a few hours. So this is something very important from a time management perspective to help you to make time for your spouse. Now, of course, besides making time for your spouse, you also need to make time for your children. And again, many people, they don't make time for their children. They think they can distract their kids with games and with TV and with gadgets, and that's fine because the child's out of their hair. Well, Allah didn't give you a child for you to keep that child out of your head. Allah gave you a child for you to raise that child to be a leader of this ummah. And if you are just ignoring the child and just giving him other things to raise him instead, you are not going to have a good relationship with your child when he gets older. Understand something: if you do not spend time with your child when he is young, he's not going to want to spend time with you when he gets older. In order for that bond to be there, it needs to be created from a very young age. So fathers especially, I know alhamdulillah most mothers spend a lot of time with their children, but fathers especially, make time for your kids every day. Even if it's just half an hour to sit and play with them, or talk to them, or chat to them about their day, whatever it is, but just quality time. Read for them a bedtime story if they are small, or play some games with them, or if they're bigger, play some sports with them in the garden, or whatever it is, just so that they have the quality time with their father, so that the bond is there. That bond is what's going to matter when they get older. Because if it's never there, if you're never there for them, if you're just working and hanging out with your friends and never at home, then when your kids are older, they're going to be hanging out with their friends and they're never going to be there for you, because that's what they learned from you. They learned from your example. So the parents out there, from a time management perspective, your kids are important. Make time for them every day. Don't say you don't have time. Make the time. The third, members of our family who we should be making time for, even if you are married, even if you are parents, even if you are grandparents, you should still be making time for your parents. Now, I'm not saying that you need to live with them and you need to be with them 24 hours a day. No. But phone them, visit them once a week, ask them if they need anything, have conversations with them daily, make sure they are okay, make sure they are happy, be there for them. And we're not saying that you have to be living with your parents and you have to be with them all the time. No, of course, in the modern world, people have different homes and people need their space. But don't cut your parents out of your life. At least phone them every day, or send them a message, every few hours, to ask them how they are, to let them know that they're loved, to let them know that you are there for them. If they ask you for something, help them with it. Make time to help them. Treat it as a priority. Treat it as important. And Allah will reward you for this. That you took out the time. You were busy with work, but you took out time to do something which was important for your parents. This is something which is Allah will reward you for. And understand that your parents, when you were a kid, they made time for you. And even if they did, I know some people are going to say, but my parents never made time for you. Okay, even if they didn't, that was their mistake. You don't have to repeat it. You still make time for them. You still make time for them, because that's the right thing to do. So your parents, whether it's visiting them once a week, phoning them every day, whatever it is, make sure that they are an important part of your life and that they feel important and that they feel loved. The fourth type of family member that we should be making time for often is our brothers and sisters. And now, of course, when we are kids, we're so close to our brothers and sisters and we're with them all the time and we're hanging out. And as we get older and each of you get married and move to different cities and move into their own homes and have their own businesses and families, many siblings drift apart. And as Muslims, we must maintain family ties. So even if it's just messaging them, staying connected via Facebook, via WhatsApp, having family gatherings once a month or once a week, but just being connected and knowing that the love is still there, knowing that you can still count on each other when you need each other. That's what's most important. Now, of course, in the modern world, it's not possible to make time for your siblings every day when you've got work, you've got the deen to take care of, you've got work to take care of, you've got your wife, you've got your kids, you have your parents. So to make time for your brothers and sisters, and they also have got their own kids and their own parents every day, that's not practical. But you need to at least maintain a relationship with them where they know that you love them and they love you, and you'll always be there for each other when you'll need each other. That level of relationship needs to be there, and you have to treat it as important, even if it means sending them a message every few days to ask how they are and how their week is going and if they need anything. To be there for your siblings is very important. So this is the family, and these are the different aspects of the family where we need to prioritize in our lives. Part of time management is making time for what is important. Your spouse, your kids, your siblings, your parents, they are all important. Make time for them. We need to take our final break now. When we return, we will talk about the remaining two areas of prioritization which is regarding society and your personal life. Don't go away, we'll be right back after this break.
Radio Ansar.
There's so much more to me, and I feel best when my soul is free. This is who I am.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're listening to Living Islam on Radio Al Ansar. I am your host Ismail Kamda, coming to you live from the Durban studio as we continue our discussion on the topic of time management from an Islamic perspective. Now, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, a bit about myself and about the show. My name is Ismail Kamda. I am the faculty manager of the Islamic Online University, the founder of IslamicSelfHelp.com, and the author of multiple publications, two of which this show is based on. Those are my books, Getting the Barakah, an Islamic Guide to Time Management, and 10 Self-Help Tips from 10 Authentic Hadiths. Both of these ebooks are available for download via my website, IslamicSelfHelp.com. Now, this show, Living Islam, is based on these books, and it's based on a practical application of Islam to our lives, where we take the principles of Islam and show how to incorporate it into your daily life, your personal life, your family life, your work life, your development as an individual in this world. Because Islam is not just about the rituals, it's not just about belief, it's also about how you live every single aspect of your life. And so in Islam, you will find guidance on different aspects of your life, including personal development and life skills. So we are talking about time management, and this is the third and final episode on this topic, as next week we will move on to a different hadith and discuss the topic of patience and the topic of self-confidence. So just a brief recap for those of you who missed the last two episodes. We are discussing the hadith in which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated that there are two gifts which people lose. There are two blessings which many people lose. These blessings are health and free time for doing good deeds. So in the first episode we discussed the part of the hadith which talks about health, the importance of the believer keeping themselves healthy, keeping themselves fit, and making sure they avoid unhealthy habits. In the second part of the series, we spoke about having free time for doing good deeds and how to prioritize. We spoke about the things that should be priorities in our life. Examples given are praying 5 times a day, or spending time with your family, any task that you've been given at work, and your own development and growth, and time to relax and to recharge. So continuing on from there, the next topic that needs to be covered when it comes to time management is the issue of building good habits, because essentially that is what time management is all about. It is about habits. It is about replacing the bad habits in your life with better habits. And so the question that comes to the mind of many people is, how do I change my habits? How do I change when I know something that I do every single day? I know it's bad for me, but it's a habit. And on this point, we go back to the great scholar of Islam, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah rahimahullah, who stated about bad habits. He stated, stand firm against evil thoughts, because if you do not do so, those thoughts will become ideas. And if you do not fight your evil ideas, those ideas will become your desires. And if you do not fight your desires, then you will get determination and intention to fulfill them. And if you do not fight the determination to fulfill your desires, then those desires will transform into evil actions. And if you do not follow up those evil actions with tawbah, with repentance and good deeds, then they will become habits that will be difficult to quit. So definitely bad habits, as stated by the scholars of the past and the people of the present, bad habits are hard to quit. But, and this is the big one, they are not impossible to change. If you have a good motive, if you have strong willpower, if you have a genuine reason to change, then you can replace a bad habit with a good habit. And this is what it comes down to. Getting rid of a bad habit comes down to having something to replace it with. Because if you do not have something to replace it with, you will find yourself with a void. a void that needs to be filled. And if you can't find something halal to fill that void, you end up going back to the haram. If you can't find something good to fill the void, you end up going back to the bad. So for example, someone who's used to spending a certain time of the day doing a haram act, if he does not find something halal to do at that point in time, at that time of the day, then he ends up wasting that time and thinking about the haram thing and eventually falling right back into it. So replacing your bad habits with good habits. How do you do that? Well, to do that, you need sabr. You need sabr. Now you may be thinking, wait, sabr as in patience, isn't that something we do when bad things are happening to us? Well, that is one meaning of the word sabr, and the word sabr is a deep word. It is a word, if you open the dictionary, go and check it up right now if you have an Arabic to English dictionary in your home. Open up the word sabr. You will see it has at least 5 to 10 different meanings. The meaning of patience, which is its most common meaning in our community, that is one of the meanings of sabr. That is the meaning of the word sabr when it is used in the context of bad things that happen to us. But there are other meanings as well. When Allah tells us to have sabr when it comes to staying away from sin, the sabr of doing good deeds, the sabr of building good habits, or in all of these cases, the word sabr has a different meaning. What does sabr mean in each of these cases? Sabr means to persist. Sabr means to be consistent. Sabr means to hold on to your determination, to persevere. Sabr means to control yourself. These are all different meanings of the word sabr. And so to build a good habit, you need persistence, you need motivation, you need determination, you need consistency. This is how good habits are formed. So now whenever I teach people time management, and I do teach workshops on this topic, but whenever I teach it, I generally inform people that don't try to change everything in one day. Rather focus on one habit and on changing that one habit, and focus on making that habit a part of your life. Once that habit is changed and once that is over, then you move on to changing something else. So for example, if you are not praying 5 times a day, focus on that for now. Make the prayer 5 times a day on time a part of who you are. Once that becomes a habit, once that becomes a part of who you are, then you focus on something else, like reciting Quran or making time to read books or something else, because you now have this habit intact. So one of the keys of replacing a bad habit with a good habit is to focus on one thing at a time, and to just focus on that one thing for an entire month. So you tell yourself, for this month, I am going to pray every salah on time. Now if you can stick to that for 1 month, it can become a habit, and it can become something that you'll be able to stick to for the rest of your life, right? So you will tell yourself, for example, this month I will make every day I will make time to spend time with my children. Every day I will make the time to spend time with my children. Once you do that, it becomes a habit to make time every day to spend time with your children. But the first month is going to be difficult, because it's not a habit yet. Your habit is to do the opposite. So you may feel resistance, you may feel lazy, you may feel like doing whatever you've done before. This is where the sabr comes in. That consistency and persistence at doing the right thing, even when you don't want to do it, because you know it's the right thing to do. That's what it comes down to. You know what's the right thing to do, so you're going to do it even when you don't feel like doing it. And understand, whether it comes to deen or dunya, whether we're talking about this world or your religion and afterlife, in both cases, the only way to succeed is to do the right thing, even when you don't feel like doing it, even when you're too lazy to do it, even when you're not motivated to do it. You still go ahead and you do the right thing, because you know it's the right thing to do. It's the people who do that who get ahead in life. It's the people who do that who get things done. It's the people who do that who are able to build good habits by replacing their bad ones with better ones, and by being persistent in doing the right thing no matter how they are feeling. Understand this. Many of us are driven and controlled by our emotions. When we feel like doing something, we do it. When we don't feel like doing something, we don't do it. So we don't feel like studying, we don't feel like praying, we don't feel like doing work, and we just go with how we feel. Understand, if you live your life like that, you are not gonna accomplish anything. Because there are definitely gonna be days in your life where you don't feel like doing anything. There are definitely gonna be days in your life where you lose motivation. There are gonna be days in your life where you wanna quit your job. There's gonna be days in your life where you are feeling weak. There are going to be days in your life where you don't feel like praying. You need to build the habit of doing the right thing every day, whether you feel like it or not. You need to build the habit of doing what's right regardless of how you feel. Separating emotion from the issue. Knowing I've got to get it done, it doesn't matter how I feel. That's how you get work done. That's how you become a better Muslim. That's how you become a better person. By always doing the right thing, no matter how you are feeling. So, this is the issue of building habits. Now, here's a few tips on how you can build your habits, right? Just 3 things you can do to help yourself build a good habit during those first 30 days. One of the things is to set a daily reminder. So understand, if you are introducing yourself to a new habit, you need to give yourself a daily reminder. So otherwise you'll forget and fall back into your old habit. So for example, just say you're now building the habit of reciting Quran every day. So have a reminder, whether it's on your computer, on your phone, in a diary, on your wall, on your fridge, whatever it is. Have a reminder there saying, did you read Quran today? Did you recite Quran today? Have the reminder there every day, so that when you look at it, you remember and you recite Quran, and keep that reminder there until it becomes a habit. Once it becomes a habit, you don't need the reminder anymore, because your brain knows it needs to recite Quran today. But for the first 30 days of building the habit, you need reminders. And so this is one of the things you can do, is to set for yourself daily reminders for what you need to do for that day. The second thing you can do is to get family and friends to help you. Right? Now, of course, this only works if your family and friends are not going to forget themselves. So if you're hanging out with forgetful people, then telling them to remind you, well, they might need you to remind them to remind you. So you want to find somebody more reliable to do this. Now, when it comes to family and friends, how can they play a role in helping you to build good habits? Well, you can sit down with them and say, listen, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to change. I need your help. Would you be able to help me? And if they say yes, then you explain to them what exactly you need them to do in order to help you. So for example, if you are letting go of a bad habit, just say for example, you are in the habit of smoking and you want to stop smoking. So you will tell your family and friends, listen, I want to give up this bad habit of smoking. So if you ever see me going near a cigarette, remind me that I'm trying to stop. Right? So what you do now is you build for yourself a support system. You're not in it alone anymore. There are people there with you. There are people helping you to give up that bad deed. There are people who are helping you to gain a better habit. There are people there who are supporting you. So even when you are weak, there's somebody helping you be strong. Even when you feel like giving up, there's somebody to hold on. And this is why it's so important to have good friends. It's so important to have good company. It's so important to hang out with people who will be there for you and will help you to become a better person, rather than pulling you back down into your bad company. So make sure that you get your family and friends on board to help you out. And another example of how you can do that is, if you want to get into the habit of praying Salatul Fajr on time, get in contact with a family member or friend who already does this. So for example, you know, one of your cousins or your uncle or your parents or your spouse or your best friend, they pray their Fajr on time every day. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them, listen, I'm really serious about starting to pray Salatul Fajr on time every day. I know it's compulsory. I know we have to do it. I really want to do it. But for the first month at least, until it becomes a habit, I need you to give me a call every morning at Fajr time and make sure I'm awake. Not a missed call, not an SMS. Call me and make sure I'm awake and I'm praying Salatul Fajr every day. Right? So you now have a support system. So just say you didn't hear the alarm, or you hit the snooze button and fell back to sleep, or something else happened, right? You know that person's there to help you stick to your good habit. You know that person's there to give you a call and remind you that you've got a good habit to build. So this is why it's so important to have a support network, to have a network of people around you to help you to replace your bad habits with good habits. The third thing that you can do to help you to replace your bad habits with good habits is to think about and analyze your actions and choices every day. One of the greatest qualities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given people that no other creature has is the ability to think about our own thoughts and actions and analyze them. We can use this skill daily to our advantage when training ourselves to think before we act. We need to take our first break now. When we return, we'll continue talking about building good habits. Don't go away, we'll be right back after this.
Radio Al-Ansar.
Durban, South Africa.
The Way of the Warrior was stimulated by research carried out by myself, Sifu Salim Badak, to make the series. Richly illustrated throughout, it is essential listening for the dedicated enthusiast, but will prove equally fascinating to all those intrigued by the paradox of the martial arts. The notion that study of a lethal skill can lead to an increased spiritual enlightenment, a fighting way of peace. I draw on my experience to enlighten you as to how to use proven techniques for avoiding most confrontations, improve your fighting skills, and maximize your mental toughness. The choice is yours. Learn from me self-defense and increase your odds of remaining alive, or risk being unprepared when a violent predator gets you in his sights. Tune in on 90.4 FM and 105.6 every Saturday at 3 p.m. The Way of the Warrior.
This is your last chance to place your advert for the month of Ramadan. For your convenience, our reps are working overtime. So avoid the rush and contact us now on 031 208 1601.
Do you want to make a difference in the lives of special needs learners?
Most definitely. How can we show our support?
Well, it's very simple. Purchase a ticket for just 200 Rand, enjoy a sumptuous braai, and be inspired by our guest, Muftiya Umi Ruman. You will be supporting the learners of Ibn Masud.
Okay, when and where?
Wednesday, 16th March 2016, inshallah. Al-Ansar Hall, 189 West Road, from 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. For tickets, please call 031-209-0050. Every child is a different kind of flower, and all together they make this world a beautiful garden.
Are you a crazy blog follower? Or maybe a pet lover? Or just a lost teen trying to find yourself? Then join us on the chat room as we chat about blogs, pets, stress, crazy facts, and young fighting inspirations. So tune in every Sunday 2 to 4 p.m. on the chat room with me, Sumaria Jamal, only on Radio Al-Ansar.
Tweet us at Al-Ansar Radio.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're listening to Living Islam on Radio Al-Ansar. I'm your host Ismail Kamda, coming to you live from the Durban studios. And someone just asked that how can they get in contact with me? Well, you can contact me via my Facebook page or my Twitter account. My Facebook page is Abu Muawiyah Ismail Kamda, and my Twitter account is at Ismail Kamda. So I'm available on Facebook and Twitter, and generally I don't give up my phone number because I'm most of the time either in meetings or teaching or writing, so I prefer not to take phone calls unless completely necessary, right? So those are the ways you can get in contact with me for those who wanted to know. Going back to our topic that we had before the break, we were talking about time management and we were talking about building good habits, and we said that one of the ways to build a good habit is every day just to think about everything you do and ask yourself why. Why do I do what I do? Is it productive? Is it beneficial? Is it helping me in any way? Is it making me a better person in any way? Right? You need to really introspect. So, for example, if you get a strong urge to do something haram, you need to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is it benefiting me? Is it harming me? Is it making me a better person? Is it wasting my time? What's going to happen because of it? You see, when you think about this, about your actions, you will be more likely to make good choices in life. You will more likely be able to build better habits in life, because you're not just going through life on autopilot. You are now thinking and critically analyzing your own choices and actions, therefore developing for yourself a better system of life, a better lifestyle. So those are three things that we can do in order to build good habits, that we can make sure we have reminders, we have a support network, and that we analyze our actions and ask ourselves why we do what we do. Moving on to the final topic that we wanted to discuss in time management, and this is a question I get asked very often, that is, how do we deal with distractions? You've all been there, right? You have your to-do list, you have something you know you need to do, you gotta get it done, and you just end up getting distracted. So you know it's study time, and you told yourself, for the next 1 hour I'm gonna study, and 5 minutes later you're on Facebook, and after Facebook you're on YouTube, and after YouTube you're on WhatsApp, and after WhatsApp you're on Twitter, and before you know it the 1 hour is gone and you haven't done any studying. So the question is, how do we deal with distractions? And that's what we're going to discuss now in the second half of the program. I'm going to divide distractions into a variety of subtopics, things that distract us when it comes to email, phone calls, people around us, how we set up our work environment, how we schedule our day, and finally, social media. Right? I'm leaving social media for last because that's the big one, right? That's the one everyone's waiting to hear about, how to deal with the social media distraction. So before we go into distractions, here's some interesting quotations from early scholars on time management and avoiding distractions. So looking at Ibn Jawzi rahimahullah, who was a great scholar who wrote many books of hadith and tafsir, and he also wrote a book called Time is Valuable, and in this book he states that time is a precious asset. It must be put to pious use. He says, I try to keep away from people, but it's not possible to always be away from people. So I cut down my conversation when they are with me, and at the same time, I prepare my writing material and clean up the house and do things like that. So that, so that these things get done without distraction while talking to people. So it's a very interesting example he gives. He says that this kind of thing has to be done and it doesn't take concentration, so why not just do it while talking to people? So Ibn Jawzi is giving an example of productive multitasking, where he knows he needs to clean the house, he needs to sharpen his pencils, he needs to gather his paper for writing, and at the same time people need to talk to him. So why not do both at the same time? Because he can do those things while paying full attention to what the people are saying, and instead of spending half an hour talking to people and then another half an hour cleaning the house, by doing both at the same time, they both get done within half an hour, giving him half an hour more to write. To understand just how powerful this system of time management was for Ibn Jawzi, just look at the amount of books he has written. He has written dozens of volumes on tafsir and hadith and fiqh. Where did he get the time to write so much? It's because he had this system. He had this methodology where he would not allow any time to be wasted in his day. So he was very strict about avoiding any forms of distraction. And Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah rahimahullah, another great scholar who avoided distractions, he stated that wasting time is worse than death, because death separates you from this dunya, but wasting time separates you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Powerful statement. When you waste time, he said this is worse than death, because when you die, you're leaving this world. If you did good deeds, that's not a problem. If you lived a good life, that's not going to be a problem. But if you're wasting time that could be spent obeying Allah, time that could be spent building your good deeds, time that could be spent building your akhirah, it's gone. You're separating yourself from Allah. Therefore, a believer cannot afford to waste any time. So let's get down to the practical nitty-gritty of it. How do we avoid the distractions in our life? Let's start off with a common one, right? Emails. Emails in the past was something people would just log into their computer once or twice a day to check their inbox. I remember the old internet where you had to dial up and connect it to the phone lines, and you couldn't use the phone while on the internet, and it'd take a long while to download one email. Those days are long gone. Now the emails are consistently popping up on our cell phones 24 hours a day, right? And we all know that feeling. You're working, you're in a meeting, right? You're presenting something, and while you're doing that, you see the red light flicking on your phone, and you know you've got an email. And so what many people do is many people stop whatever they're doing, pick up their phone, and check their email. In doing so, by checking your PC or your PDA or your phone or tablet at every notification, you are wasting a lot of time. Now, there's two problems here. The first is time's being wasted. The other is you are not going to be able to do a really good job. Why? because you are distracting yourself. Just say, for example, you are concentrating on a project, and then you step away, or you stop for a second to check your phone notifications. Now your mind is distracted from the project. You have to think about the whole thing all over again to get back to where you were. This wastes a lot of time, it slows down your productivity, and it makes sure you get less done in a day than possible. So now if you look around the world and you actually had to check with the world productivity experts about email, you'll find something very interesting. Most people around the world who get a lot of things done, they check their emails in batches, meaning they check their emails twice or thrice a day at specific times. Not only that, but they never check their email first thing in the morning. Why? Number of reasons. Just say you have a really nasty email from someone, and that's the first thing you read in the morning. Your whole mood is spoiled for the entire day because of that one email. Or what if you have a really technical work email and you read that first thing in the morning? You know, it completely drains your energy before you get any creative work done. So what a lot of people do is when they wake up in the morning, they put their email and their social media aside, and they focus primarily on their high concentration tasks. So for example, you wake up, you pray Salatul Fajr, and then you do something productive. So if you're a writer, you use that time to write. If you're a student, you learn the time to study. If you're doing hifz, you use the time to memorize the Quran. If you are working on a project or a new business idea, you use that time for the creative aspect of working on that project and business idea. And then after doing that, around 8 a.m., 10 a.m., now you check your email and start answering your emails. You will find that you have got a lot of work done in the morning. Why? Because your mind was not bogged down by the contents of that email, because you were focusing primarily on the creative task, and you did not check the email before it. There were no distractions in your mind. But had you woken up and the first thing you had done was check your email, and then you went to pray Salatul Fajr, I guarantee you, while praying Salatul Fajr, you're not thinking about Allah, you're thinking about that email and how you're going to respond to it. So this becomes a distraction. Therefore, 2 tips when it comes to answering emails. Do it in batches, and don't do it first thing in the morning. And to add one more tip number 3 is, don't check your email at every notification. You don't need to do so. It's sometimes good to just leave it for later and not have to look at every email as soon as they come in. So these are 3 tips for dealing with the distraction of emails. If you do these 3 things, inshallah, you will find more barakah in your time, and you will find that you are not being distracted. Similar to emails is the cell phone, right? We know the thing, when somebody phones, whatever we are doing, we stop and we answer and we take the call. And I've seen this so many times. I'll give you one very frustrating example. You're sitting in the class, the teacher walks in and starts teaching. 5 minutes later, his phone rings. He says, give me a minute. He answers the phone, he steps out of the class, and he only pops back in 15 or 20 minutes later and apologizes because he was on a call. And guess what? Your class as a student gets cut down, time gets wasted, because that teacher treated that phone call as more important than his students. So I myself am very strict. When I am teaching, or if I'm in a meeting, or even if I'm writing, my phone is on silent. It's on silent and it's put away, and I'm concentrating on that task. If I'm counseling someone, the phone is put away and I'm focusing on that person and paying full attention to that person. Why? Because whatever's in front of you right now, whether it's a meeting, whether it's a class, whether it's a project, whether it's a person, especially if it's a person, that's more important than the phone call. If that phone call is an emergency, they'll find another way to contact you. They'll phone your spouse, they'll phone your secretary, they'll phone your neighbor if it's an emergency. 99% of the time it's not an emergency, it's just somebody who wants to chat. The other thing to do with phone calls, and this is something I'm very strict about, a lot of people find it strange, but I'm very strict about this. When people phone me, I tell them, listen, I'm very busy, I'll give you 5 minutes to talk, and then I need to get back to work. And people get used to it. People get used to it. They begin to understand that you're a busy person. You can't chat with them on the phone all day long. And so many people are too shy or too polite to do this. So what happens? They're working and somebody phones and they don't want to say no, so they start talking to that person. And sometimes half an hour goes on the phone with someone talking about something absolutely not related to your work. Time that could have been spent working is now wasted away. So you have to be strict, and you have to be principled, and you have to tell someone, listen, I am busy, right? And I can give you 5 minutes, I can give you 10 minutes, but not longer than that. Now when you say this, the person gets straight to the point, and they talk about what they phoned you to talk about. Because sometimes someone phones you for something important. You know, maybe they need a number from you, maybe they needed to ask you about a business deal, you know, whatever it was. But because they think you have a lot of time, they may ask you about your family, about your holiday, about when you're going for holiday next, and where you're going, how much you're paying for your trip. You can cut all of that out by simply telling them that I only have 5 minutes, you know, what do you need? And they will tell you what they need, and the phone call may last 1 or 2 minutes, and you've saved yourself a lot of time. Now there's a third thing that I do, and again, I don't think everybody would do this, but this is what I do personally, it helped me a lot, is actually something I did at the beginning of this broadcast, and that is I tell people that I don't deal with phone calls in a hurry. Right, so when people try to contact me, I always inform them that my preferred medium of communication is email. I prefer an email to a phone call. I check my emails multiple times a day, so if you email me, I will respond. And I will respond in details, because when I sit down to answer emails, I answer each email in details, right? But if you try calling me, I might not answer because I'll be in a class. Or if I answer, I may give you just 1 or 2 minutes to speak. So email works out better, because I'm not in a hurry. You're not in a hurry. You send me the question with as much details as possible, and I answer it at a time where I have enough time to go through and answer it with details. And this really helps with Islamic topics, right? Because sometimes somebody phones you and they're like, I need a fatwa right now, you know, what's the answer to this, and what's the proof, and what's the reference? And you can't just give something like that on the spot. You know, it's better for them to email you the question. You can read all the books, you can type out the evidences, you can type out the references, and you can give them a thorough documented reply which they can show to other people with the references and evidences. So therefore, when it comes to phones, my personal way of dealing with them is to tell people that I prefer emails to phone calls, and only phone me when it's a necessity and when it really is that important. So that's something I do personally. But for most people, I would say that if you don't answer your phone when you're doing something more important, and if you limit your conversations to 5 or 10 minutes, you will save a lot of time that can now go into actually doing something more productive. So that is when it comes to phone calls as a distraction. A third type of distraction is your own workspace environment. And by this I refer to two things, right? There's your physical workspace and your virtual workspace. The physical workspace being your desk, your chair, and everything around you, your bookshelves, your filing cabinets, all of that. And your virtual workspace is your computer desktop and your files and folders there. These things can become a distraction. What do I mean? Well, just say you have a really unorganized desk, and lying right on top of it are magazines and books which are completely not related to your work today. So you may sit down to do work, and you may look at a magazine or book and start reading it. Now you are distracted simply because you did not organize yourself properly. Or your computer, it's the same. You know, if you open your computer and right there on your desktop are links to funny videos and, you know, funny emails, and so you might get distracted from your work by all those links. Therefore, it's very important that you minimize your workspace, that you only have on your desk that which is needed to get your work done, that you only have in your office that which is needed to get work done, that you only have on your desktop, on your computer, that which is needed for work. Now, of course, on the computer you can have other files, but you can have it stored away where it's not right there on your desktop. It's only where you need it when you need it. It's the same with your office. You know, things like books and magazines that may distract you from work, you can put them in a cupboard or in a cabinet where they are only there when you need them for referencing or, you know, for your personal reading time. So these are, you know, some ways in which you can improve your workspace. Now, moving on from workspace, another area where people tend to get distracted is dealing with other people. And I think this is really perhaps the hardest one. Right? Many of us, due to politeness mainly, we don't like to tell people no. We don't like to make people decline any requests from other people. And so for many of us, our biggest distraction becomes people. That you're ready to study, but your friend phoned you. How can you say no? So you end up speaking with your friend on the phone instead of, you know, studying. Or you're getting ready to work on a really important project, and one of your co-workers walks into your office and starts chatting, and you don't want to be impolite to your co-worker, so you continue chatting with him and time gets wasted. In this way, chatting and dealing with people becomes one of the biggest distractions in the workplace. And many people, they do not really realize just how dangerous this is to your time management and to getting things done. Sometimes the entire workday goes in just talking to co-workers without doing anything productive. So how do you deal with this? Well, again, it really depends on your workspace, where you're working and how it's designed. So let's give a few different scenarios. If you have your own office, then alhamdulillah, you have a potential solution, right? If you have your own office, then you have a potential solution in that when you are working on high concentration tasks, you can close the door. You can close the door and inform the people you'll be busy for the next half an hour, no disturbances. And you can get a personal assistant or someone else to handle phone calls and stuff while you are working, but this will save you a lot of time, and this will help you to get things done without distractions from people. Now, I myself do this. I work from home. I have a home office, and when I have something high concentration to do, like to teach or to have an online meeting or to write a book or write an article, I inform my family that, listen, for the next half an hour to 1 hour I'm going to be busy. Nobody come in the office, nobody knock on the door, and if somebody tries to call, you answer the call and take a message for me. In this way, there's no distractions from people and things get done. Now, it can be much trickier if you work in a open plan office with people all around you, sitting right next to you, and they want to yap and chat all day long. So, if you are stronger, you can tell people straight that, listen, I'm working now, we can talk about it later. And you can have a meeting with them where you inform them of how to improve productivity and that they all help each other to be more productive. And if all else fails, the old go-to way of letting people let you work in an open plan office is wear a pair of earphones. Right? For some reason, when you have earphones in your ears, nobody talks to you because they assume you are busy. Right? So even if you got nothing on, those earphones at least muffle the sounds around you, and it gives people the idea that you are busy listening to something, or you're busy concentrating on something, and so they're less likely to disturb you. So that's become a last resort when nothing else is happening nothing else is working to stop people from being distractions. So we need to take another break now. When we return, we will conclude on how to deal with your distractions. Don't go away, we'll be right back after this break.
The Al-Ansar Foundation, Da'wah, Tarbiyah and Education, establishing the foundations of Islamic civilization in South Africa.
From the history of the rightly guided Khalifs to the wisdom of the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the A to Z of the noble companions to the glory of the Umayyad dynasty, from the enemies in the Seerah to the gems and pearls of the Quran. Join Sheikh Bilal Ismail every Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. for an insightful journey through our Islamic heritage. Water awareness in the life of a Muslim. A Muslim should be thrifty and cautious in the usage of water at all time, not only during a drought. Even if one's at the bank of a river, it is not permissible to squander the water and use it as one likes. Only that amount must be used which suffices for one's needs.
Assalamu alaikum. Kick off with me, Buddy Governor, every Saturday afternoon, 3:30 to 5 p.m. on Radio Al-Ansar's premier sports show. I will bring you the latest in global and local sports news, results and previews.
Healthy lifestyle and sustainable fitness trends for all.
Martial arts and self-defense. So make a date to kick off with me, Buddy Governor, every Saturday afternoon, 3:30 to 5 p.m. on Radio Al-Ansar.
Al-Ansar International.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're listening to Living Islam on Radio Al-Ansar. I'm your host Ismail Kamda, coming to you live from the Durban studio as we come to the final segment of this episode, the final of 3 episodes on the topic of time management from an Islamic perspective. And we've been discussing the hadith, which is hadith number 8 in my book 10 self-help tips from 10 authentic hadiths, which is available as a free download from my website islamicselfhelp.com. And expanding on that topic, we are discussing a chapter from my other book, Getting the Barakah, an Islamic Guide to Time Management, which is available at the Al-Ansar bookstore and also as a download via my website islamicselfhelp.com. And we were talking about distractions, how to deal with distractions. When it comes to time management, you can have your goals, you can have your priorities, you can have your systems in place, but when there are distractions there, nothing gets done. So you have to be able to learn how to work around distractions. And here, before we went for the break, I was talking about earphones as a way of blocking out noise when you work in an open office. And you know, I work from home, so that open office thing doesn't apply to me, but my kids are, again, I have 4 kids, so that can get quite noisy. So that's when the earphones come in handy for me. That if the kids are making noise, and they're going to be kids, so you know, let them be kids. But if I'm working, put in the earphones and I can't hear anything, I can just concentrate on work. So this becomes, you know, a nice way to help to block out the noise when you have to concentrate on high concentration tasks. Now, on this issue of distractions, I want to talk about multitasking. Multitasking, you know, this is really the a very popular thing when I was a teenager, that people felt that if they multitask, then they look busy, they look intelligent, they look important, and so everybody was into multitasking, right? That you find somebody that they'll be typing out the report while watching the news, while drinking coffee, they'll be driving their car while talking the phone, while drinking, while listening to the radio, all at the same time. And you know, people tend to boast about how much they multitask. Now here's the thing, research has shown that most of the time, multitasking leads to shoddy results. Multitasking stops you from concentrating on the task at hand. As a result, it actually slows down productivity and causes sloppy work. When we multitask, our brains are unable to give full attention to any of the tasks. As a result, none of them end up being our best possible work. This is why the modern time management experts have all agreed that focusing on one task at a time gets things done faster with better quality compared to multitasking. So if you are talking to someone, give them your full attention. If you are writing a book, give it your full attention. If you are working on a project idea, give it your full attention. Whatever you are doing, give it your full attention. In doing so, you will do a much better job compared to somebody who is multitasking. So let me give you an example of this, right? Just say that somebody needs to talk to you, they need your advice, they need some counseling. Now there's 2 situations. There's the one who's multitasking and the one who is giving the person attention. Now if you are talking to that person while chatting to somebody else on your phone, you're not paying attention to what that person is saying. And that person is going to realize it, and they're going to be frustrated, and it's going to affect your relationship with them. And so this is something very serious. If somebody needs your time and attention, you know, and between husband and wife, this is very important. If your spouse needs to talk to you, put your phone away. Look that person in the eyes and pay attention to what they are saying. They will appreciate it. Especially with your wife, your kids, with your family. Give them that time. Don't look at your phone while they are talking to you. They are more important than your phone. They are more important than whoever else is on your phone. Put it away and give them your attention. So multitasking, it distracts you. You cannot listen and read at the same time. You cannot type, you know, and teach at the same time. You have to do one or the other, because if you are doing both, you will do a poor quality job. Now, having said that, there are times where multitasking is beneficial. And personally, I found them to be 2 situations where it's good to do 2 things at once. The first is when I'm doing a really mundane task which doesn't require any concentration. So, for example, if you're doing admin work, and for myself, a lot of the admin work that I do doesn't require concentration from me. It's basically autopilot habits that I'm used to doing every single day. So while I'm doing that admin work, I may listen to a lecture or a podcast or an audiobook, so my brain is being stimulated while I am doing something with my hands. So this becomes a way of doing two things at once. And again, when I have a high concentration task, then I don't listen to something while doing it, because I won't be able to concentrate on it. But when I have a task which is habitual and which does not consider a lot of brain power, does not take up a lot of brain power, then I will do that while listening to something at the same time. The second time when multitasking becomes beneficial is when you are waiting. So traffic, or sitting in a queue. Instead of sitting in a queue and wasting time, or sitting in traffic and wasting time, why not find a way to make that time beneficial? So for example, if I'm going to, let's give the common example, if you're going to Home Affairs, right, you know you're going to be sitting in that queue for a long time. So whenever I go, I always take a book with me. I sit and read a book, and before I know it, my name is called. Instead of sitting there and getting frustrated and complaining to the person next to you and getting angry, you know you're going to wait. Find a way to make the time productive. So you are now waiting in the queue and reading at the same time. It's the same with traffic. You know, every single day on the way to work, there is traffic. It's the same thing every day. What's the point of getting angry? What's the point of getting frustrated? What's the point of starting your day in a bad mood? It's a part of your life. You just have to get used to it. So why not find a way to make that traffic productive? How? Play an interesting lecture or podcast or audio book in your car. So now you are sitting in traffic and listening to something beneficial. That time is being used beneficially. Or while sitting in traffic, if you have important phone calls to make, why not make it, from your hands-free Bluetooth kit or whatever you have in your car to assist you in this way. So you're sitting in traffic and you're getting work done by making these phone calls. So by the time you get to the office, some work's already done. You see, these are ways in which you can multitask, where time which would otherwise be wasted is now being put to beneficial usage. So this is something I do. If I'm sitting in traffic, I listen to a podcast or lecture. If I'm sitting in a queue, I'll read a book. If I'm working on something which doesn't require much brain power, I will listen to something beneficial at the same time. So again, when it comes to multitasking, there's two things. If you're working on something that requires your attention, then focus on one thing at a time. Don't try to do two things at the same time. You will not do a good job of either of them. That's point number one. Point number two is that if you are working on something which does not require a lot of attention, then you can focus on two things at once. Now, coming to the final aspect of dealing with distractions, the big one, social media. How do we deal with social media? Well, here's the thing. Social media doesn't have to be a distraction. Social media can actually be a tool. For me, if you go to my Facebook page, or my Twitter account, or my LinkedIn account, or my Google Plus account, you'll notice all of these things have become tools for dawah and for business. Right? Really, you can use these as business tools. You can use this for dawah. You can use this for education. You can use this for uplifting the community. All of these tools can be put to productive usage. All of these social media platforms are not good or bad in of themselves. It's how you use it that matters. So, I don't feel guilty to use Facebook, because I use Facebook to do dawah and to do business. And there's nothing wrong with either of those two things. But what you need to do is learn how to manage your time on Facebook, how to manage your time on Twitter. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier. You don't have to check your phone every time you get a notification. You don't have to check every single like, every single comment, every single, now we don't just have like, every single love and haha, right? Facebook's been upgraded to include these new emotions. But you don't have to check every single time. You can schedule time. You can tell yourself, okay, I'm working on this project right now. I'm switching all my social media off. I'm putting my phone on silent. I'll check it in 45 minutes time. Discipline yourself to do that. I guarantee you'll get work done. If you don't discipline yourself to do that, you know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. It's happened to all of us. You said, I'm going to work on this project for the next 45 minutes. You start, 5 minutes in, that red light starts flashing on your phone. You pick it up, Somebody liked your status, so you like one of their status back. They send you a message, you send them a message back, you start chatting with them. They send you a link to some funny cat video on YouTube. You end up watching that video. From there you get a link to another YouTube video, and before you know it, 45 minutes is over and you are still on the internet. So best thing to do, you've got something important to do, you've got some studying, you've got some writing, you've got some research, you've got some work, whatever it is, put your phone on silent, put it away. Avoid social media. The world's not gonna come to an end if you are off Facebook for an hour. The world's not gonna fall apart if people don't reach you on WhatsApp for an hour. That's not the way the world works. You need to learn to just let it go and check it when you need to check it. Once an hour, once every half an hour, something like that. Another thing when it comes to social media is that I personally prefer to schedule my posts. So what I do is I go online once every 2 days and I type out all of my posts for Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn on that day and schedule it to go out at 2 or 3 times a day over the next 3 or 4 days. So as a result, I can be talking right now on radio and something might go up on my Facebook page or my Twitter account. I'm not tweeting while talking, I'm not on Facebook while I'm talking, I'm concentrating on you, I'm concentrating on what I'm saying, but those things were scheduled 2 days ago to go out today at that time. So in this way you save a lot of time. Instead of going on Facebook and typing something out every single time, this takes up a lot of time. Batch it together. So for me it's just 3 times a week. I go online, I type out everything for the next 2 or 3 days, and I put it into my feed, into the schedule system, and it goes out over the next 2 or 3 days at the optimal times. In this way you save a lot of time on social media that is normally wasted. So as you can see, social media can be a tool for doing a lot of good things. It's all about being self-disciplined, checking it when you need to and not compulsively. You don't need to be obsessive compulsive about it, and doing things that like scheduling instead of posting straight away. These things can help you to use your social media productively. To be productive, it doesn't mean you have to get rid of Facebook. I know some people believe you have to do these things, but I don't believe you can do that. You can actually use these things productively. You can use these things to benefit and change people's lives. You can use these things to grow your business. You can use these things to stay in contact with family and friends who live on the other side of the world. And this is beneficial usages. Understand that these tools that we have in this world, Allah will reward you or punish you according to how you use them. If you are using Facebook to stay in contact with your sister or your brother or your mother who lives on the other end of the world, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are using it to talk to non-mahrams who are, and start up haram relationships, then you are sinful for that. Not for using Facebook, but for who you are contacting them and why you are contacting them. So look at your intentions, look at how you do things, and this will help you to find a productive way to use your social media. So just to recap as we come to the end of this episode, the past 3 episodes have focused on time management from an Islamic perspective. Again, all of this is taken from my book, Getting the Barakah, an Islamic Guide to Time Management, which is available at the Al-Ansar bookstore and also via my website, IslamicSelfHelp.com. In fact, I also launched a time management course on my website earlier this week, so you can check that out. The course is taught in video format and it's based on this book. So if you want to learn more about time management, check out my website, IslamicSelfHelp.com, which has lots of free articles on this topic, as well as the ebook and the video course. So we spoke about distractions, how to deal with them. We spoke about how to build good habits. We spoke about priorities and how to set them and how to take care of your health. These are a variety of aspects related to time management that we have covered across 3 episodes of Living Islam. Next week we will move on to Hadith number 9 in the book 10 Self-Help Tips from 10 Authentic Hadiths, and Hadith number 9 deals with the very interesting topic of patience, right? Of patience and perseverance, and from there confidence, how to build your confidence as a believer. And we will talk about that topic over 3 weeks based on another book that I have written, which is also available at the Al-Ansar bookstore, Best of Creation, an Islamic Guide to Self-Confidence. So inshallah we will begin discussing self-confidence from an Islamic perspective next week, right here on Living Islam, every Tuesday night from 9:30 to 10:30 p.m. This has been Ismail Kamda signing off. I will see you next week. Jazakallah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Social expectation drowns us all in sadness.